Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 71 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. I'm your host, Michael McColl.
And I'm Steve Pandher.
And we're joined by our special guest, Harjeet Johal, our journalist.
Hey guys, how's everyone doing tonight?
Well, we could be a lot better. We've just watched the Whitecaps throw away what was really a very comfortable 1-0 lead at half-time. Absolutely just collapsing in the second half. Mixture of the heat, bad defensive mixes, a sending off, some controversial moments elsewhere in the game. But all in all, as Carol Robinson said after the match, it was a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, definitely. I thought the first half, like you said, it was complete control. There was no danger coming from Chivas. And the Whitecaps could have easily been up a couple of goals when you consider how much control they had of the game.
What do you pin the blame on? Was it just too hot, the conditions, and the players tired? Was it the sending off that turned the game? Or was it the inability to take their chances that they did create, and that's really cost them dearly?
Well, there are a number of factors that I think cost the Whitecaps 3 points tonight against Chivas. I talked to a couple of Chivas players, and they said that they had a good pep talk at halftime, and you could see that when they came out for the second half. They really got going, and that quick goal, it really set the Caps back, and you could feel the energy at BC Place. It just got zapped both in the stands and on the pitch from anyone wearing a Whitecaps uniform. And I think that the Jordan Harvey, the red card, it completely befuddled the team. We saw that same thing happen earlier this season when Matías Laba was sent off, and I don't think the Whitecaps adapted well. We saw that, and Carl Robinson had already used 2 of his subs. So, they really couldn't do much to, get back in the game, and they have missed opportunities in previous matches since the World Cup break ended, and, they didn't take advantage, and Chivas did, and that's why they're leaving town with all 3 points.
Well, in actuality, if you look at the stats, after the sending off, they actually controlled the most of possession.
The Whitecaps
did. And it was the time before the sending off that I think when the first goal went in, between that and the sending off, where after the goal went in, it didn't seem like they knew what to do. But once the sending off happened, they seemed to be on the attack. It was like you were saying, the missed chances. Rio Coker with that chance, where I think if anybody else was in that position, I tweeted out that I thought if Morales was in that spot, it would have been a buried shot. And somebody tweeted me back, said if anybody was there, and I kind of agree with that. If anybody was there, it would have been on net.
Do you think they were on the attack too much, Steve?
Yeah, well, that's what caught them, because they gave up that goal to Torres. They gave way too much space down that left side where Dean came on for Harvey. I think Robinson did a good job of getting Dean out there a lot faster than what he did against Colorado, because against Colorado they lost Laba, and they really had no reply in that middle, and they lost it. Gave up really 2 quick goals in that area to that one player. This time they had Dean, but Dean, I guess, wasn't ready or something like that, and Delgado was able to get that ball into Torres. It was great for him. But, you got to look at that too. Betashore, where was he in the marking and all the other guys that were in that area?
They lost the first and the second goal. They lost to headers. They've lost a lot of goals to headers this year. And the thing that's annoyed me most, which we saw in the first goal in particular, so many of those headed goals that they've conceded they've been unchallenged. Nobody's risen up to get it. So, I mean, that was disappointing. I don't think you can blame Dean too much for the second goal, because I still think that even if it had been Harvey that was there, they would still got that ball across.
I do agree, but I think he could have closed it a little bit more, but that's just picking it. Really, what happened in the middle.
But that Delgado cross and the Rosales cross from the corner, they were pinpoint accurate crosses. They were fantastic. Going back to the real Coker miss, he was just on the field, and like as Har mentioned, they had just made the substitutions. It was about a minute later that Harvey went. I think they were still the right substitutions, and you did see that when they came on, that it brought a whole different impact to the game. And Darren Mattocks was looking hungry. He looked back to himself. Also, he missed him, which is back to his old self as well.
But you also got to look at everybody's going to blame Rio Coker and Mattocks, but if you look at it earlier in the first half too, we were talking about the missed chances. There were so many times where Hurtado, that one where Morales dipped it,
beautiful
tip down. He brought it down nicely, was on the ground, but he just shot it way wide of the net.
Well, even the build-up to that attempt, though, like Kofi played a brilliant ball through to Morales first time right into the path of Hurtado, and Hurtado, to his credit, he controlled it well, and I said that when we watched the replay. Great control. The finish, though, it's like you have to at least try and get it on target.
Yeah.
He was like...
Or at least close to target. It wasn't even like close at all.
15 feet wider than that?
No, the goalie didn't even have to make an attempt on it.
Some guy in Rogers Arena got hit with that.
But even despite that chance, there were a number of times when both Hurtado and Mane made their runs down into the box or down the sidelines, and once they got to the final third or close to the sideline, seemed like they had no idea what to do, whether they should have shot early or laid off the ball right away. It was just befuddling. It was frustrating at times.
Well, before I go on my rant about Mane, just to telegraph what's coming, Har, what did you think of Kekuta Mane tonight and also last week?
I thought he was definitely a little bit hesitant in his decision making. I believe in the first half he had a great shooting opportunity. I'm not sure if he fumbled the ball or if he was going to pass or shoot, but before he could make up his mind, the defender was on him right away and his shot attempt was blocked. I think he was better this week than he was last week, but he's still a young guy. There's obviously going to be growing pains. You've got to be patient with him. I would really have him come off the bench, maybe in the 60th minute, and I would start Darren Mattocks. I think Scooter is best used as a sub right now to attack tired defenders in the second half. And maybe we'll see Carl make the switch in Toronto. I really think Russell Tybert's going to get that start, so we'll have to see what unfolds with those two guys.
Yeah, Mattocks is great at that for now, but I honestly think they need somebody that is a pure winger and somebody that can, if they're not going to get a striker to, although I think they do need one, if they're not going to get a striker, move Mane to the middle and have him play more middle, and get somebody that's capable, like a Fernandez is playing on the right side. Get somebody that can play the left side or switch them out or whatever they want to do. Somebody that can service the ball into the box or do something with the ball when they're at the edge of the box more capably than what Mane's doing right now.
Now, I was saying to you before the game that, well, first of all, in Mane's defence, he is not a left winger. He doesn't play well there. He's much better suited to being through the middle. But he is frustrating the hell out of me just now because he tries to beat man after man. There was one occasion tonight he tried to get past 5 men and he was never going to do it. He did that last week against Seattle. It's always one or too many men that he's trying to get by. His control as well. There's a couple of times tonight actually he made a chance because he overhit the ball and the Chivas defender wasn't even expecting that. So it kind of confused the Chivas defender what was happening. But he's just out of form just now, and he really, really needs to come off the bench.
I remember talking to Toronto's keeper Joe Bendick when the Canadian Championships are here in Vancouver, and he was telling me the scouting report on Kekuta from what they studied as the opposition basically was he's going to cut in and he's going to shoot to the left. And if you watch Kekuta Mane from that point on to right now, it's exactly right. And I think the opposition, they know this and they've game planned for what Kekuta's going to do. I think he's got to mix it up, maybe try a different position as you were suggesting, Steve. He's got to try something new, and it comes with being a young player, and hopefully he can get it going because he's an exciting player and he makes things happen. But he also needs to use his teammates more, I believe.
Yeah, that was something I wrote.
Both him and Hurtado.
Yeah, I wrote that before the game as well, when I had done like some keys to the game on Soccerly. And one of them was that Mane has to stop being so selfish and realise that he's not playing as a striker. He's playing in a creative role in the wing. And what the Caps need from that role is him to send the ball in for somebody like Morales or Hurtado to finish. And that's not what he's doing. He's trying to do it all himself. We saw that from Matix last year and we saw how badly that ended. Yeah, he's an exciting talent. He's a great player. I really, though, don't know if he has got it in him to change his game. Is his game any different to, I'm just going to put my head down and run and hope that the ball sticks to my feet and my speed will get me past these guys?
It's frustrating and because we've seen what he can do against Seattle last year and everything like that.
Yeah.
And remember that time he was playing up top.
Yeah, that's the thing. He was the out-and-out striker then.
So it's a matter of them seeing where they can. Maybe they need to do a formation change in order to put different people on the pitch. It'll be interesting to see what they do for.
Well, Carl's talked this week at training how he's considering more looking to go to the 4-4-2 diamond. They've also been experimenting and training with a 3-5-2 option, which is what I've always loved way before it was fashionable in the World Cup.
Yeah.
When I've played these football management games, I always went 3-5-2 because I just think it gives you just more options. I don't know that we have the personnel just now that I'd be comfortable doing that with, especially on the right side and maybe the left side of midfield. I don't know. Sam Adekubi maybe could do that role because we've seen him do it for the residency. Big difference between doing it against 18-year-olds and grown men.
Now, speaking of Sam, obviously he might get a chance against TFC because obviously one of the biggest talking points was the red card. In your guys' opinion, Michael first, I guess, or Har first?
No, let Har go first.
Har first. Was that a red card justified?
I've only seen one replay, so I don't know if it was justified. But from what I saw, it looked like Jordan came in with 2 feet. And I definitely think Osvaldo Amida, I think he made a meal of it. He definitely sold it. A yellow card, yeah, I think it should have been deserving of at least a yellow card. But I'd have to see for the replays to know whether I think it's a red card. And yeah, it's disappointing for Jordan. He's not missed. I don't think he's missed any MLS minutes this year, and it's a tough way to sit one out. But, maybe Sam Adekubi gets a chance in Toronto.
And of course, including Sam, it could also be Christian Dean because he's the one that came on today. Also, my opinion about that, I think it was justified. He came in, left his feet, and went in hard. He basically lost the ball, was knocked off the ball, and I think he got overexcited and tried to do too much to get the ball back. And I think that's where he lost it on this game.
I think he was probably going to get rested in one of these 2 games anyway, and it would probably have been the game against Toronto that I think he might have been rested, so it might not have too much of an impact on Carl Robinson's plans. When I first saw it, I didn't think it was a red card. I thought it was harsh, but as soon as I saw the replay, and I've watched it a couple of times since, clear red in my book, no doubt about it. Dangerous play. He jumped in, both feet were off the ground. It wasn't a scissor kick motion, but the legs were either side of Minda. And the studs were up, and he came in at speed. And unfortunately, in the modern day game, you just can't do that.
No, every MLS, like when I watch the instant replay on MLS site, I every time that happens, the red card usually comes out, or Simon Borg is saying that should be a red card. When I saw it, I go, especially when you saw the speed he went at Minda, I think that was really the thing. If he went a little bit slower at him,
it looked really dramatic.
Yeah, it looked very dramatic, and I think the red card was justified.
Obviously, that was one of the controversial moments. There was another one at the end of the game with Pedro Morales. We'll talk about that in a minute. But before we get talking about that, let's hear some audio from Carl Robinson after the match, where he talks about Jordan Harvey sending off, also the Pedro Morales incident, and a few other things from today's game. Here's Carl Robinson.
Carl, were you given an explanation on that goal? It looked like Pedro Morales maybe had tapped it in across the line and Dan Kennedy maybe bobbled it. What do you think on that?
Was I given an explanation? No. What did I think of it? I was hoping it was a goal. I think you saw from the first, 35, 40 seconds there, when Carlyle Mitchell picked up a yellow card with a tackle that I knew the way the game was going to go. What I can focus on, and I want to focus on, is my team's performance today. We lost. It's bitterly disappointing because I don't think we deserved to lose. You know, we're very comfortable in the first half, going 1 goal ahead. We played the way I wanted us to play, without probably the lack of cutting edge in the final third. You know, we've done everything correctly, and then the little final details in the give and goes or in and around the box weren't there in the first half. And then even at the second half, when we went down to 10 men, you know, we adjusted it, and Nigel and Darren both come on, and we both had, you know, they both had very good chances. So, you know, disappointing, kick in the teeth for me, for the guys in there because of the work they put in. But I said I'll take the positives out of my own team's performance, which I can comment on. You know, I don't know. You know, I spoke to Jordan. He's apologised. He's, you know, whether he's left his feet. If he's left his feet, it's a red card. And you know, I think there was one in about the 90th minute, what I thought was a similar challenge. But I don't have to make calls on decisions, whether they're controversial or not. You know, I'll support my player in whatever way if I think he hasn't done anything wrong. And you know, he got bumped and he went after the ball. So until I see it again, I can't really.
Do you feel this was points taken out of your hands tonight, or were you more upset with you didn't bury it when you had a chance?
A bit of both, really. I think we dropped 3 points tonight, and like I said all along, you got to win at home and try and pick up points on the road. So I just said to him in there, we need to try and win an extra away game now, which I'm confident we will, because we're not bad on the road. We can catch teams on the break, and you know, it just puts not a little bit more pressure, but we got to make up a game now. So disappointed, but you know, we got a busy week ahead.
You mentioned during the week that you had your plans for the next 2 games. Does this now throw those out the window? Maybe,
yeah. I might have to sleep on it now and see what I'm going to do. But over the next week, there'll be players that get opportunities. They will. Obviously, like I said, we need to try and chase 3 points somewhere along the line, but we've still got 15, 16 games to go. So, you know, it's not a big rush for us. If I feel, I'll speak to the guys on Monday and see when we fly to Toronto if they're tired, and you know, based on that, I'll pick the team that I think can go out and win that game.
Do you feel that he had any impact on the performance in the second half, especially just after half time they kind of switched off?
Yeah, I think we started slow at the start of the second half, and I just said to him there that was probably the disappointing thing from the game, because I didn't feel under any threat really in the first half, and the 10 minutes after half time are always key in any game, and obviously they got the goal and they got the bit between the teeth. But like I said earlier, even going down to 10 men, I thought we were the better team, and we controlled possession and we had a number of chances, but we didn't take them chances. So fair play to Chivas, they take the 3 points and they get out of here.
So Carl Robinson there, obviously very disappointed after the game, and we'll hear from the players in a little bit. So let's talk about that Pedro Morales incident at the end of the game. Dan Kennedy had the ball in the line, Pedro went in. Did Kennedy have full control of it? The ball ended up in the net. It was definitely over the line, but referee Villarreal said no goal.
Well, honestly, I have to be honest. I did not see it fully, and they won't put a replay on now. I don't think on MLS. So I will have to wait till I get home. But from what it looked like, he did have his hand on it, and in most cases, I think it's a 50-50 call. I think some referees will call it, some referees won't. In this case, he called it because he was strict from the beginning. He was, you know, giving...
Oh, yeah, Mitchell got the red card in yellow card, 40, 45 seconds. I thought he was going to get the red card because we've seen Carlyle, he almost picks a booking up in every game.
Yeah, but he seems to play better after he picks up a booking.
I think he has to really be switched on because of that. And I was really worried about that, but then as the game went on, I was kind of more worried that Leveron might end up getting a red card for some of his tackles. I would need to say it again as well. My first instinct from what I saw was it was a goal. Watching the replay, I was like, no, I think he did have control. So
he seemed like he had one hand on it or something.
Yeah, it's whether he had full control. Yeah. It happened so fast as well that makes you think it's maybe hard to have full control at that speed, because it was a split second. Got the ball, fell to the goal line, Pedro went in. I don't know, goalkeepers get way too much protection these days anyway, for my liking. I like the old days where you could just barge them into the net.
I think Pedro Morales has got to be a bit more vocal there. I think he's got to maybe sell it, or maybe, you know, get in the referee's ear. And
he was in there. He was in everybody's ear.
He was turning away celebrating. He thought he'd scored.
Well, after that, I see him patting Kennedy on the back or whatever. I mean, come on.
He's a nice guy. But talking to Pedro Morales, I thought today and last week he's kind of shown some good form again. He's just needing more round about him to get this team clicking. And I'm going to throw this one out there. Transfer window's obviously open. we won't speculate about what players in particular might be coming in, but do you feel, with the squad that the Whitecaps have right now, there's enough quality there to get them into the playoffs, or do they need to make some additions?
I think there is enough quality to get the Whitecaps into the playoffs. Having said that, I think there's only one spot, and I think it's the 5th and final spot that if they do make the playoffs, and that's the one they will get. I think they need a couple of pieces to push them over the top to upgrade the team. Definitely a striker, somebody who can score goals, a big tall lad, something like that. And definitely center back. I think center back is a key area for this team. You've got Jay and Andy definitely hobbled, and if you get Carlyle or Johnny suspended, is Christian Dean or someone else going to be capable to step in? I don't think you want to go the rest of the way with Johnny and Carlyle as your two definite dominant center backs. So I definitely think center back and a striker, a big tall forward, I think those would be the two areas I think the Whitecaps would need to improve on. And if they can't do that, then I don't see them getting above 5th spot.
I totally agree with you there. I think it is all about a battle for 5th. The crazy thing is, if the Whitecaps had won tonight, they'd have moved into 2nd spot, because Salt Lake lost 1-0 to LA, other results went in their favour, but now, instead of being in 2nd place, they're hanging on to 5th. LA's got closer to them, and Chivas are now 2 points behind them.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. They need to make up these points that they lost at home here. They need to either pull out a couple of draws or win one of those two places that they're going to play this week.
But what do you feel they have got the quality to get in?
I think they have the quality to be on the brink of getting in. I agree with I'm not sure about center back. I think Andy O'Brien could get back in time, and Jay Demerit, he's still there. I would I talked about earlier in the podcast, the right mid spot or the left mid spot, wherever you want to put Fernandez, get somebody for the opposite side, because I think if there's just not enough service, like we talked about before, from Mane, and that would push Mane into the middle and maybe get him some time playing as a striker. Otherwise, change formations, get a 4-4-2, and maybe bring another central midfielder. But the thing is, we talked about it before, where are they going to get the money from? Right now, Kenny Miller's money is off the books. That's a big chunk, but where else are they going to? They're going to have to ship somebody out in order to bring somebody else in.
Well, I mean, are they making plans for Nigel?
Yeah.
Omar Salgado, it looks like he's going to go. It's not going to free up a lot of money, but
yeah, he was pretty vocal in the pregame show.
Yeah, I mean,
he didn't go directly into saying he wanted out, but his first question, they asked him was, "How's your season so far?" And he was saying bad. He just came out and said bad, and it was like no. And after that, then it kept talking about it, and he was basically intimating that he's not happy being here right now.
I mean, it would be nice to see what he could do, but he isn't helping himself either. He had another training bust up on Friday, this time with Sam Adekugbe. And that's not the first time he's clashed with Kekuta Mane this year. He's clashed with Jordan Harvey, who's one of the nicest guys that even opposition players, I know he almost decapitated Minda today, or at least chopped his legs off, but he is a nice guy that doesn't get into arguments with opposition players.
Yeah.
But even he got into an argument with Salgado. So I mean, what did you see yesterday? It was Omar and Sam, just competitiveness or chip on the shoulder? I
think it was a bit of both. Competitiveness for sure. They wanted to maybe just give them a bit of a breather. I could get feisty between teammates during those scrimmages, as we've seen, not just with Omar, but with sometimes other players. What happens within a team, but when it happens to one specific player more than anyone else on the team, you're definitely going to get a reputation. You're going to get people talking about it and wondering what his future is. I think Omar, maybe he could do with a new change of scenery. He's been absolutely great whenever I've talked to him. I think he's a very nice guy, and I hope he can turn it around somewhere, if not here in Vancouver. I don't know what his value is when you go on a local radio station and you kind of take a bit of a dig without taking a big dig at what's happening. So Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens to Omar and the team.
And the thing is this has been going on since the first year he came in. Like I remember in Empire, Terry Dunfield having to take a big chunk out of him after a game. He was pouting or complaining or something like that. And then obviously everybody went after Dunfield because everybody was protective of Salgado, like supporters in that way. And then also he went after PDL legend Derek Bassey.
Yeah, at training. That was another training.
That was a vicious one. That one was, and it was basically Salgado not taking anything from somebody who he thought was a lesser player than him.
And I understand he's frustrated, and he's right to be frustrated. And I do think he could do a job for the Whitecaps, and he hasn't got the opportunity. But Carroll made it very clear to him pre-season, and I saw this with my own eyes down in Portland, that he's not going to take any crap from any of the players at training, and if they show attitude, he said to them, you're out the door. And he's got to the end now that he must be kind of pretty much at the final straw. So that would free up some money, some space. We obviously don't know like what other movements. I put out on Twitter last night I wouldn't mind Chivas doing a swap deal for Eric Torres and in return for Darren Mattix and Omar Salgado. Don't think that's going to happen.
We should have done it before the game if we were going to do it.
Yeah, I'd love that. I mean,
yeah,
can you imagine? Torres, Rosales has provided so much for Torres this year. He's not getting much help from anyone else. Can you imagine what kind of player? That's 13 goals he's got now. What kind of player would he be in MLS with the kind of service that we have the potential to provide? We're not always showing it, but I'm just a big fan of him. You kind of also have to think he's going to go back to Mexico.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is he on permanent loan or?
He's on loan. There's been a lot of talk that the Chivas fans down in Mexico want to take him back.
Yeah.
But I mean that's for another day. I do feel we need a striker, and Carroll's made it known he's wanting a big guy. Rob Friend, I think, could still be a possibility. I don't want him here. I don't think he's the kind of guy we need. But he's out of favour at LA. He's had injuries and stuff, but he might be somebody that might come back.
Internal trade, yeah. Maybe they send Rio Coker back for him or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be risky because it's a Western rival that at the moment is challenging you for that fifth spot. Yeah. But I agree with Steve. For me, the big area of concern is left wing, left midfield. We need a left winger, a fearsome left winger, Arthur Scargill.
They might even go into maybe experimenting with maybe putting Russell Tiber back there, because last year he did have a few moments.
Mr. Versatile.
Yeah, and he had a few moments in the month of June and August where he was able to supply something from the left side.
Well, he's got more tools in his locker than a Swiss Army knife.
He does. And or maybe they go to a 4-4-2 where they put him on the left side, and maybe he can provide service from that central midfield position. But we'll see what happens. It's a long way to go.
Since we're talking about Russell Tiber, and we were talking about this before the game, signed his new contract yesterday.
Yeah.
Everyone seems really happy about it. Everyone except me. I don't think he's that good a player, and I'd actually pitched the idea that we should maybe consider getting rid of him.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere, so you might as well put that in your back pocket.
No, I know. I don't think he's a utility player, which is good. He's not a starter. I mean, Har, what's your thoughts on Russell?
I think he's got a good future with the Whitecaps. He's definitely shown flashes where he can be a really good serviceable player. I remember last season him and Camilo and Kenny Miller, they had a big stretch where they were dominant, and
that month of June last year.
They were tremendous last season. I don't think we've seen that this year from Russell because he just hasn't had the opportunity. And when he hasn't put a string of consecutive games together where he has been.
But I haven't seen it from him in training either. That's the thing. He has, like someone like Fernandez, when he's had a bad week, he steps it up in training, he gets noticed, and he gets in the team. Tibert's not doing that.
Well, it's because he's spending a lot of time on his hair.
And I think for the money, we obviously don't know what the money is he's going to be on, but I think looking at what his salary was before when it was homegrown and Generation Adidas, it's not going to be a kick off that. You have to think it's more.
Yeah.
Carroll said he's one for the future captain of the club. I just have my doubts he's good enough. I don't think he's shown enough development and growth this year to be a player that's going to make a big difference for the Whitecaps in years to come.
I think you haven't noticed him as much. I think, especially there was one game where he played against the LA game where he completely manhandled Robbie Keane.
That's like one game. That's the problem.
But he's done other games like that too. I think you just don't notice him. You just have.
I know. I can see Ben Massey's loading his shotgun, listening to this.
I think he's a solid player. I don't think he's a superstar by any means, but he's a solid player as of right now, and he's still young, still at a young age. If he's being paid something like a Harvey money, then I think he's worth it at this point.
I don't know. I mean, he's somebody I think we should get rid of. Bryce Alderson's another guy as well. You look at his salary, you get rid of that, you can sign Bustos and Froze.
He's a G.
I know, he's not going anywhere.
No, he's a homegrown, so it might not even count.
No, but he eats up one of those homegrown spots, which prevents the Whitecaps then moving somebody else up.
Yeah.
Now, the thing we don't know about Russell, he was also in one of those homegrown spots, so you have to think he now isn't. So that could open up, and if Caleb Clark moves on somewhere...
Yeah, there'll be open spots for next year.
Yeah, I mean, Bustos, Froze... I mean, somebody like Bustos coming into the team just now, why not give it a shot? Because the other guys aren't stepping up.
Yeah.
So before we talk anymore, let's hear some final audio from the Whitecaps locker room. We're going to hear from David Ousted, and the man who scored his first MLS goal as a Whitecap. Very happy in that regard, but sad for the loss, Carlyle Mitchell.
Disappointed, gutted is another word. Said before the game we shouldn't take this lightly. I don't think we did, but we didn't get the result, so I'm disappointed.
What was your thought on the especially the first goal? It just seemed like the free header from 6 yards. Just a lack of concentration? Or?
Yeah, we were talking about it's the little things, and just switching off for a second is costly, and it was in this situation. And we'll work on that and see if we can pick up a little bit better.
Despite going down 10 men, it seemed like you guys did have 3 pretty good chances. You felt like even after Jordan went off, you guys still probably, had the better chances before they took the lead.
I thought we had some fantastic chances. I thought the guys did well to create them, and I thought we should have scored. But not doing that again, we get a goal against and go down 10 men and 2-1, and then it's uphill.
As a goalkeeper, have you seen the replay of the Morales chance at the end, and you might have the best opinion of whether or not it should have counted.
I haven't seen it, so it's hard for me to speculate on. What I'm hearing is that he's got a hand to it, and so what we'll say is that that's one of those 50-50 situations, and those haven't been going our way, especially not here at home. If it's a save, good for the ref. He got that one right, and I'll say hopefully some of those 50-50 situations will come our way.
Is it a positive that you have a game against TFC on Wednesday and you don't have to dwell on this match tomorrow?
Yeah, I think we want to get going as soon as possible. So TFC will be a big match. We have some big match coming up, so it'll be nice to get going again.
Your thoughts on that, getting that first one for the club?
It's a great feeling getting my first goal for the club, but unfortunately we didn't get the result we had expected. But as a team, we got to that's water under the bridge, and we just go to Toronto and get a win.
You guys were a bit sluggish to start the second half when they tied it. Lower.
I didn't think we were sluggish to start the second half, but I just think one of the guys lose concentration on his mark, and the guy got a free header and he scored.
Carlyle, you've been close on a couple of headers on corners before. Were you getting a bit anxious? Did you think it was ever going to come?
Yeah, I was getting close. I say, well, I've been getting close, and I said one day it will be in. And a great cross by Pedro, and it deserved a well finish.
Yeah, you got a little bit lucky too. I think it went between Kennedy's legs, didn't it?
Well, they say sometimes you got to make it one luck, and that's what I did.
Were you disappointed defensively with the goals that you conceded, especially the first one?
Well, the first one, off a set piece, I was disappointed. But as I said, it's soccer. So we just have to build as a team again and concentrate more.
Any injury concern? You came off close to the end of the match?
Not that bad. I rolled my ankle at the end of the game. But it's okay. Just got to see the doctor tomorrow and start to do therapy on my ankle. And by Wednesday, I should be fine.
So that's enough about the Chivas disappointment. Fair credit to Chivas, so I do want to say that. I mean, they came, they battled hard, they looked out of it, and they left with all 3 points, so good for them. Whitecaps now have to turn their attention to a really difficult 2-game road trip against 2 of the best sides in MLS. Maybe Salt Lake next Saturday's not showing the great form just now, but they are getting all their World Cup guys back, so you think they're going to start gelling. But first up on Wednesday is Toronto. It's going to be a full-strength Toronto team. Jermaine Defoe in fantastic form, another 2 goals today. And I kind of hate myself for saying this, but Toronto, they're really impressing me this year. Not with the players that they've brought in, because you expect them to do well with that, but their fighting quality. They go down to 10 men, they fight hard. Today they were 2 goals behind at home, and they fought back for a 4-2 victory.
Yeah.
That's the kind of fight we haven't really seen from the Whitecaps a lot this year. I think it's going to be a tough battle. I think Cal might have made some changes for this game, but now, as you heard in the audio earlier, he's going to have to sleep on it and decide what he wants to do. What's your thoughts on Wednesday, Steve?
I think they need to come up with something different. Obviously, the left back position is going to be the new player, whether it's Christian Dean or Sam Adekubi. I would like to see Sam get a run out there. I know Christian played there against TFC during the Voyageurs Cup, and he didn't do too well. He struggled against them.
He's not
starting
a left
there.
back.
Yeah, it's good for him to come off the bench and everything to play left back, but he's not a starter there at all. So I like to see Sam. Sam seems to be in form and ready to go. He's played a couple of PDL matches, so he should be ready to go. And for that, we'll see how training is and everything. Other than that, I'd like to see Kakuta get a game off, put somebody else in that spot, and maybe rotate either Lava or Kofi off for Tybert and see what they can do with that.
Harv, what's your thoughts on the Toronto game, and would you keep Eric Hurtado up front?
I think it's going to be an exciting match. It always is when Vancouver and Toronto get together. No, I would put Eric Hurtado on the bench, and I would definitely give Darren Maddox a start. I think with these 2 matches this week, it's a quick turnaround. It's a lot of travel. So I think we might see, a lot of players coming in and out. I don't think he's going to go with... He's definitely not going to go with the same starting 11 in both matches. So you need to find a good balance where you've got 2 strong lineups in both matches. So I think we'll see a lot of changes. We won't see the same starting 11, that's for sure. So I think if you can get Sam in there, I think Nigel could get a start as well. Yeah. So
I think he will. I think he will. I think we're going to see
Nigel and Russell.
Could be
holding mid.
I think we're going to see a Rio Coker-Bradley battle in the middle of the park, and I think that's a good battle to have.
Michael Bradley didn't play today, so we're not sure how fit he is, if he's going to be ready to go on Wednesday. So they could catch a break with him out of the lineup. It was sunny though, and with that bald head, I mean, it's risky. Yeah. I mean, this is a night game, so he's maybe not going to get as burnt.
With the 2 games coming up, which one do you guys see as being the more important one, TFC or RSL? My opinion, I'd like to see them beat TFC. I don't really have any hate towards RSL. I prefer to see TFC go down, and also it helps with the CONCACAF berth for next year too, because the top MLS team advances for 2015. So I think that would be more important in this case.
If you think with your head, you should definitely say Real Salt Lake, because they're in the Western Conference, and it's good to beat a team that's in your conference. And the Whitecaps struggled against RSL earlier this season. But if you go with my heart, and that's what I'm going to do, I want to see them beat Toronto. I want to see any Vancouver BC team beat Toronto in any sport. Wax them 7-0. I don't care what the score is. Just beat Toronto, so I can get one over all my cousins and all the people over there. It's always exciting when Vancouver and Toronto meet, and it's the same thing in MLS. So definitely, I would prefer to see them take all 3 points from Toronto and send those Easterners back to their cabins in the woods.
For me, it's RSL's the most important game. Yes, there's CONCACAF points at stake for the Champions League. Ultimately, it'd be great to be in that, but ultimately I don't care. It's about the playoffs for me. A win next week pulls the Whitecaps level with Real Salt Lake, which of course, as we said, they could have done today. So I feel they really have to try and get the 3 points next week. The West is, the West is tighter than a gnat's chuff just now, and it's only going to get tighter.
It will.
And I think you have to really go for it against Salt Lake and take the risk that Toronto's going to come out maybe better anyway, because they've maybe got the better players, and there's a travel east. So I say put out a weaker team against Toronto, or weakish, and go for it against Salt Lake.
Remember, with CONCACAF you get more of this.
Yeah.
And I'm making the money simple, if obviously on a podcast you don't see it.
It would be nice to be in the Champions League. I just think it's not going to happen anyway, because I think Toronto's going to go on a run now and they're going to get the points in the bank.
Yeah.
So for me,
it's
have to go for Salt
It's a
Lake.
weaker Eastern Conference. It's going to be hard for them
Oh,
to
yeah. I mean,
catch up.
the Eastern Conference is dreadful.
Yeah.
Something that excites Steve and me, the new USL Pro team. I mean, we're cock-a-hoop about this USL Pro team. It's something we've wanted forever, and it's now still not officially a reality. So close to being a reality.
Yeah, there's just the only issue is going to be the stadium location, and whether they can push this through to the council, because there are going to be people that are going to fight it. There's a baseball issue you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, I think that could be one of the big ones, because they're going to build them a new baseball facility, which is great, but folk will be up in arms about that. The other issue as well, of course, is folk are worried about increased travel and parking. Traffic. I mean, I had a look at where it is, because I wasn't 100% sure where it was in New West. There's so much parking round about. I don't think it's an issue.
But driving around New West is dreadful, though.
Yes.
I hate
you take a wrong turning in New West and you're like driving around hard trying to get back.
But overall, I think it is fantastic. It wants to get past those issues. I think September 15th or so is the deadline to apply for it.
And Bobby said if New West say no, this is going ahead. Maybe not in time for next season, but it's going to go ahead no matter where they're going to get.
It might not happen in New West next year, but it will happen somewhere next year, I think he said.
I don't know. You could read it one of two ways, that it's definitely going to happen next year. It will happen sometime.
Because they could play somewhere temporarily for now.
Oh yeah, they can always go. They can always go
UBC,
play at Swangard
or UBC or something like that. Yeah.
Hopefully not UBC though.
But overall, I think it's great for development. There is like that place where you have your 19 people that come out of the U18 team and don't want to go to college, up until 23 or so, 22. Those guys need playing time, and this is a good place for them to go for that playing time.
There's just so many benefits to the Whitecaps and this, and Canadian soccer.
Yeah.
But yeah,
let's just count that some of the guys that could have, if they had this from the beginning. You got Ben Fisk, you got your Caleb Clark, who could have played more minutes there.
Derek Bassey that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, these guys could have developed there and become MLS
Daniel
players.
Stanese, would he have had to have gone to a little lower league team in Germany?
I think he still would have gone to Germany. He wanted to go through Europe. I think even Caleb Clark, mentioning him, he probably wanted to go off to Europe too.
Yeah.
But I think there were options where there'll be some players who maybe weren't good enough when they were U18s, but because they get playing time at a USL Pro level, maybe are late bloomers and become those players that you want.
Exactly. I mean, some players, I know folk talk about, they should be developed by 18. That's not the case.
No.
Some players are going to develop late, and we've seen that in the residency. In the last couple of years, there's been a number of players, Mitch Perot this year.
Yes.
Last year it was Spencer Du Bois, and they just flourished in the tail end of their last year in the residency. And then Spencer went to SFU. Mitch, we don't know what's going to happen with him, but now if this team's there, this is this opportunity for a guy like Mitch, who has shown a lot of skills, and I think he's close to being MLS ready, but he isn't.
Yeah.
And this is going to get these guys to do that. Someone like Yassin Essa last year.
I was going to mention him. Yeah,
he didn't want to go to college.
No.
And the last I saw, he was with CCB TU in the VMSL. He was playing the Provincial Cup.
And he was doing a little bit with the PDL too, but obviously it's not working out for him there either. But yeah, players like that will have a chance to develop. Like, instead of going to college where they spend 4 years developing there in a limited practice, limited playing time, this will be. They could go to this. This will be like that college atmosphere, but they'll have more.
It's a March to September season, so it's a long season.
And it's full-time training, full-time playing, and you're training sometimes even probably with the first team too.
Well,
so
I think that's the plan. I think they've still got to finalise this and get it all sorted out. But I think what they ideally would like is that the players are kind of training together a lot. Most of the training, Bobby said, is still going to take place up at UBC. The residency, there was talk that they'll play some games there. They're still going to play games at UBC. It's not that they're moving to play in New West as well, which I know some folk read between the lines wrongly. It's going to be a soccer-specific stadium. The Whitecaps pro team will play there, but it's also going to have facility use as well. The big thing that's not decided yet is turf pitch or grass pitch. I spoke to a New West official, and they said ideally they would like to have a grass pitch with a turf pitch beside it, but there's still a lot of logistics to sort out with that.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, it works out. We'll see. Obviously, then they'll find out. And they brought some partners in with them, so it's not the Whitecaps footing the full bill. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what the price ranges will be. If there's going to be discounts for season ticket holders to go there.
I just hope they get a good support.
Yeah.
And it's good because people that can't afford to come to these games with their family can take their family to this.
The kids, exactly.
They need to do a big focus on families and kids with this. And like give free tickets to the local soccer associations and try and get the BC Premier League kids to come along if the games coincide. Will they play a Friday? Will they play a Sunday? Will any games clash with the first team? Yeah. All of these things still to be sorted out. So excited about this.
For sure. Let's talk about a player who could be part of that USL Pro team next year. And you mentioned him earlier too, Marco Bustos.
Marco causing a little bit of a kerfuffle
from last week. Yeah, he basically, obviously, he's accepted a call up to a U20 Chilean junior team.
Yeah, it's a training camp where they're playing some games,
friendlies, exactly.
It's a tournament, but it's kind of friendlies.
So officially, he hasn't switched or anything like that. He's just exploring options, keeping options open, like he said himself in an article in the Province. What is your opinion of this? I know you've had opinions about nationality before. Like this seems like a small issue at this point.
I think it is. I understand why Canadian fans are getting upset because Marco's received money from the Canadian government. He's represented Canada at all levels, and now they think he's turning his back. He's not turning his back. He's exploring his options, and I know that doesn't sit comfortable with some people, and I understand that. Now, for me, there's a couple of different issues. I don't think he should be qualified to play for Chile. He was born in Canada. He's represented Canada. To me, he's Canadian. I feel the same way about Fraser Aird. I don't think he should have represented Scotland. To me, he is Canadian. He's made that choice to go to Canada. I just don't agree with all this switching of nationalities, and it should be where you were born or have very, very close associations with, were raised for party life there or whatever. So that's one element. I also think that Marco should choose Canada because I think he's going to get more opportunities playing for Canada and more chance of playing for the Canadian national team than he will for the Chilean national team, although we don't know obviously what kind of player Marco will develop into. On the other hand, I don't care really, because for me it's always club before country. I'm not Canadian, so folk will say that that's one of the reasons, but for me, club goes before country. This is going to be a fantastic opportunity for him. He's going to learn different training sessions. He's going to just have a better understanding of the world game. The Whitecaps could lose him to a Chilean club or another club because he does well at this camp and puts himself in the spotlight. But anything that he can do to make himself a better player, that's going to make him a better player for the Whitecaps, is fine in my book.
Well, I'm essentially kind of in the same boat. If he picks Canada, then this is a positive thing that he did, because he did go over there. He did learn some new stuff. I'm sure he's going to learn a lot of stuff. And we talked about it off air. Pedro Morales obviously had a big influence on him getting to Chile.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't pick Canada, I'll be the first in line with a pitchfork with everybody else. But right now, I'm reserving my judgment until that happens. Because as of right now, he hasn't closed the door or anything. There's the U20 team is going to the Milk Cup in Ireland. So if he says no to that, that'll be a big telling thing. But I'm sure he'll say yes to that. So this is right now kind of I've gone through the ringer of emotions ever since I found this out.
Because we've watched him for so many years.
Yeah,
right?
I went through the 5 stages of denial or whatever, rage, grief, whatever you want to say. At one point, I announced that I would be quitting following soccer if he switched over. So
I thought that was a bit dramatic.
It was dramatic.
When you made it the PDL game.
And I think you even announced it in front of the Curva Collective when they pick up something. So at this point, I think at this point, right now in my head, if he does go over to Chile, while I won't cheer for him, I really don't. At this point, I really don't care anymore. I think Canada needs to essentially get whatever players want to play for them, build those guys up, get those guys in there, and as soon as they get better doing that, then they'll start attracting. I personally think that the country is still about 10 years away from even competing to having a chance of going into the World Cup. I think the next two cycles, they're not going to have a chance. I was looking over age groups and everything like that, and right now the guys in their prime that are going to be in their prime for the qualification for 2018, there's not very much there. And even the next level, there's not much there. This is the third stage that people are going to be in the prime for the 2026. That's when you're going to have, because you need essentially a national pool of about 40 to 50 players, and at least 2 to 3 deep on each position in order to compete and have a chance of going to the World Cup. And the CONCACAF is getting stronger as well.
For me, though, it shouldn't actually matter whether Canada's going to make the World Cup or not. It's like, if you want to play for them, you shouldn't want to play for them just because you think they're going to play for the World Cup.
No, what I'm saying is that some of these guys that are going to come up, there are.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, it's going to be a while.
And you're going to lose less players once you start getting more competitive and having a chance to go into the World Cup. But you have to go with the guys that want to be there right now.
I mean, if Marco does pick Chile, I won't be there with a pitchfork. I'm going to say good luck to him, wish him all the best, and hopefully cheer him on as a Whitecap, because he's a talented guy. And it's like, this decision, as far as I'm concerned, it's his decision to make. It's no one else's decision, and whatever decision he does choose, I'll support him in it.
I won't actually have a pitchfork. I'm just symbolism kind of thing.
So very last thing for this podcast, Steve, you were down in Bellingham on Tuesday. I couldn't go because I had to go to the USL Pro Presser. Quick bit about the under-16s heartbreak in the quarterfinals of the USSDA.
Yeah, they were the better team in that game. They dominated. They had so many chances in that first 10 minutes. They just couldn't finish. They basically, the 2 goals they gave up were balls they gave up in the midfield over turnovers, and it was a quick turnaround. Same guy who is actually part of the U.S. national team program scored both goals. They came back. There was a goal that was, if there was goal line technology, would have counted. Obviously, there's not going to be a U16 level, so that was going to... But it rippled the net. You could tell from a distance. Everybody saw it.
This is not a biased
No, I'm not.
This,
no,
okay.
There was a number of... Everybody, the coaches, everybody saw it ripple the net.
Every Whitecap supporter that was there said, that was a goal.
Yeah, well, Chicago's going to be biased that it's saying it's not a goal. But that was a chance, and even they scored a goal finally. Zanetta headed it in. But there were a number of other chances that they could have easily drawn level and even gone ahead. It was just a matter of fact of they just didn't have enough time to go through and get those chances. But from what they were at last year, where they missed the playoffs and were quite a dreadful team, when you look at when you don't take account of their age and everything, to where they are now, they've made leaps and bounds and strides.
I mean, I think they're suffering just now. It was a heartbreaking loss, but fantastic for them. Did everyone proud, did themselves proud. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys, how they bounce back from this next year. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. Before we wrap up, let's just go around the table and tell everyone where we can find you online. So, Har?
You can read my Whitecap stuff at Red Nation Online, and you can read my women's soccer coverage at theequalizer.com. I know Michael is a big fan of women's soccer, so he reads that website daily.
I'm constantly on looking at the pictures.
And of course, you can always follow me at Hard Journalist.
Steve, hopefully shorter, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Whitecaps Beat on Twitter, and obviously writing for Canadian Soccer News.
Really?
Sometimes.
Okay. Now, I'm Michael McColl. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. You can find all my writings on Away From the Numbers, aftn.ca, Canadian Soccer News. I also cover the Whitecaps for Soccerly.com, and I'm the beat reporter for the Whitecaps for MLSsoccer.com. So until next time, let's just hope for some gutsy road performances from the Whitecaps. Can they get any points from this? Hopefully at least 2, ideally 3. I want 6. So until next time, thanks for listening. Take care, and mon the Caps.
One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.